මාගේ මේ ඇරයුම ශ්‍රී ලංකා වාණිජ මණ්ඩලයේ හිටපු සභාපති චන්ද්‍රා ජයරත්න මහතාටයි.
Venerable Sirs, I'd like to present my perspective of the governance regime and the rule of law and its impact on business by looking at a few examples of our recent case studies that we've seen. The expropriation bill, a bill that was passed a few months ago, about a year and a half ago, the government took over against the international conventions the government had signed. State signed agreements contrary to those, took over businesses which were even outside the scope of the bill. So how can we have rule of law when the bill says one thing, what you take over is something different? The appropriation bill, which is the annual vote of the parliament, when the constitution says that the finance is a function of parliament, the Supreme Court makes a ruling on it, but outside of the ruling, the funds are passed, funds are enacted, and funds are spent. The hurried impeachment of the Chief Justice, I don't have to say more, because that's well known to all of you. The perceived manipulation of the key economic figures that have been going on for weeks and months and years have now come to our notice publicly. Extrajudicial measures against business taken by extremist forces to try to control minorities and minorities' trading rights have been seen in action without no rule of law enforcement. Armed forces run businesses competing with markets both in the south and in the north specifically without absorbing costs. So there is a parallel system with no cost absorption, and that is not free trade that the government's own policy says it is. There is a new tendency which is called revanchism. A revanchist logic is used in the beautification of the country, where through the power of the military, the poor are suppressed and a few economically shown to be positive features are brought out, but it is a measure of control and militarization in the guise of economic development that is taking place. Citizens' rights to practice their faith and damaging of places of interest on faith have taken place in the open with no enforcement by those who can. The judgments of the higher courts have justified flexible application of human rights and situation-led application of rule of law. Now, nowhere in the world can business thrive or business work if rules of application are flexible in the hands of the judiciary. The politicization of individuals in key positions and their lack of integrity is reflected in the breakdown in public institutions. There is lack of confidence in the judicial system, and judicial system is now not thought by business as a place where is the last place to resolve internal disputes or even disputes between the state and themselves. The perceived levels of high corruption, nepotism and favoritism is impacting business. Systems and processes that ensure transparent, open bidding on a competitive basis and award of contracts based on the best fit for the purpose is no longer in practice. Today, the revenue systems of customs, excise and tax are not applied on a professional basis. Fair and equitable treatment before the revenue is not something that business can rely upon. Policy consistency and barriers against open doing of business is restricting the freedoms of business. Ineffective bipartisan regulators. Regulating industry and sectors, but more importantly, interfering in key sectors of banking, finance and securities and pensions markets are giving rise to economic distortions. There is no space for open, transparent, intellectual debates, even within the business fora, leave alone political fora or state fora. State interference in business and exertion of unfair pressure tactics is often seen. And the greatest thing that you can see today is policy captured corruption. The policy is captured so that the corruption now fits the policy. Policy is designed to fit in the answer you need. So there is no perceived corruption, but the policy structuring is done in a way the decision is all made at the policy level. Finally, chambers and business leaders are coerced into fall in line with a carrot and stick attitude. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is an august leaders of the law profession, I agree with you that rule of law is severely impacted and the breakdown in governance is impacting on three aspects: the freedom of business, the foreign direct investments, and the future sustainable growth of this country. Therefore, in conclusion, I wish to suggest, as a measure of taking this forward with some action from this audience, to appeal to the Bar Association to use its branches across the island to establish a framework and run a website where any breakdown in law and order or a breakdown in rule of law can be recorded and made transparent. So anywhere in the island, if anybody in business, in civil society, in politics, in education, in academia, finds a rule of law affected or the governance systems distorted, they should have the truth of it verified and recorded for the whole world to see. We do not need, this is action which is perfectly legitimate. Of course, if that web might be blocked, but that's another matter. But let us record, that's the first one. Second one is, let's start a system of petitioning. United States government, the president has a petition process. The White House, you can petition. If there's a petition requirement started by the White House, into which people can go and put their petition. If petition is supported by hundreds and thousands, Mr. Obama takes action because he knows thousands of petition signers means hundreds of thousands of people are going to block against him. So I've asked the Bar Association to consider this as a part of their extension. And third one is where there is a campaign necessary. We have a brilliant site across the globe called Avas. Why can't we have the Sri Lankan structure of Avas, where today the tech-savvy public around the country can just walk into a communication site and participate without having to gather. If our gatherings are stopped, our internet access cannot be stopped anywhere in the island. So 3 small examples with which we can do something. Our freedoms are being restricted. Let us open out and to the world and show where we are being restricted. Because if we do nothing other than just speak out, a few of us, I do not think we will achieve our mission. Thank you.